So just as a brief recap, we've been looking at saying hello world with React. We've been also evaluating how JSX works. We now know how to render elements to the page. We also have gone over components, props, the way that they work with each other, and I guess the way that data flows through the web page. And we're skipping over state and lifecycle because we're gonna go over that when we reach the hooks. So right now, what we have is we're gonna handle events. So very quickly, I'm gonna build a new page altogether, and we're gonna add a button in at the bottom of our current application. So let's start with making that new file. We're gonna call it button just to keep it simple. .js, and inside button, just like everything else, we're gonna import React. Why don't we use the shorthand? All right. So let's go ahead and we're gonna make this button first. We're not going to do anything fancy inside of it except for return just the button. Since we're just going to play around with it just a little bit, we're going to do div, and then inside of that div, we're just going to make that button. How about we do first button? I was going to call it button 1, but first button sounds a little bit better. So we are going to export this since we're going to put it on our app file. So we can now save that. All right, looking good here. Let's go ahead over here, and we're going to go ahead and import button from button. Awesome. And down here at the bottom of the comment, we're going to just do that. All right. Let's see what's going on, why it's not showing up. Why don't we refresh the server? It looks like it's up and running. Here's our first button. Okay, so when we talk about handling events, one of the events, and the reason that I chose this button is because clicking the button is triggering an event. So inside here, what we're going to do is we're actually going to use some of the hooks, but we won't tell. We're going to use state, right? And so what I want to do with this is inside this button, we're going to give it a value. So we're going to do value, comma, set value. And inside here, use state will be retaining the value 0. All right, nothing fancy yet. However, down here inside of the JSX, we want to make sure that we show the value right there. Now, since I wanted to look on separate lines, why don't we do this instead? We'll put a new div here. We'll save that. All right, cool. So we have the value 0, and we have the first button. Now, in order to invoke the event or capture the event for a button, we're going to use onClick. So every time you click the button, it'll trigger a function that we want it to do. And so in this case, it's going to be in camel case. on click. And what we're going to do is we're going to call add one. Pretty simple. Actually, we'll do that in camel case, add one, just like that. So up here, we're going to do const add one. We're going to make it into a function. And inside here, we're going to do set value to value plus one. Pretty simple, right? So we'll do that. We'll refresh our page. Looking good. And look at that. Every time we click the button, actually, why don't we give it just a little bit of spacing with style. Do a little padding. How about just 20 pixels sounds good. Just to give it a little space. Look at that. Our first button is now giving us a few features. Now, what we can also do is there is another function that we can have handled within these parameters of the on click. However, we're going to do an anchor tag instead. So href, we're going to do google.com. Why don't we do the full qualification for it? www.google.com. Let's go ahead and save that. We'll refresh our page. And the href is not showing up. Why don't we do google.com here? All right. So it's actually supposed to kick us out to a different page, which is weird. Yeah. That's weird. I'm wondering why it's not kicking it out to the correct page as expected. You know what? Why don't we add in just the HTTP. We'll do a :/ and then save that and try it that way. Okay, now it's looking good. So we don't want this to happen, right? We don't want it to click out of our page into a new one. We want to take away this functionality. We still want it to be here, underlined, and still reference an anchor tag. Again, this is just as an example for right now. But within here, within these parameters, what we're going to do is we're going to take away that feature. And the way that you do that is that we're going to add in that same function on click, and we'll do this time no window, right? So we're going to build in a function const no window, and inside here, what we're going to do is we're going to take this event and we're going to stop it. So inside here, inside these parentheses, we're going to add in the letter E, which is going to hold the event. And inside here, before I save it, I just want to look at it one more time. I'm going to click. Actually, we should probably do this just to separate it. Whoops. We're going to separate it out one more time. Make it look all nice and neat. See if that'll work. All right. All right. So we're looking at the no window, and as soon as I click the google.com, it immediately kicks me to a different page. Well, we don't want that feature. We want to make sure that it stays on our page. What we're going to do is, with the on-click now enabled inside of this anchor tag, we're going to go inside here and do e dot. Ooh, give me a second. Let me sure I spell it correctly. Prevent default is what we're going to be doing. And it is a function that we're going to be running. Now, just to show you that it is working, we're going to do inspect. We're going to roll down a little bit. And instead of elements, what we're going to do is we're going to do console. Okay? So every time we click this, we're going to do a console log of link was clicked. All right, so we'll refresh this. We'll give it a second, and boom. As you can see here, the link was clicked. We can actually do it a bunch of times. It's incrementing, as you can see, but it's not kicking us to a different page. And that's pretty much the function of prevent default. Now, in some cases, or actually in a lot of cases that I've seen, these are typically associated with submitting a form. And the reason that you use the prevent default is because you don't want to accidentally have a button, log or record a specific value from your form and then have it refresh your whole page. So this is that way, that feature of making it not reload the page.